Looks like it
Take
was
on those
recently
extra
dug,
lights.
too.
Definitely.
Dan, can you kick on the fog lights? Maybe we'll see
Sure.
into the barrel.
Absolutely.
See the difference in color of the sediments that are underneath. They haven't been coated with a little light iron staining from the water.
You're right.
So that brown coloration at the surface you see.
Dan, do you want to wait until we are out of here or until?
Iron oxides
Yeah, let's just
in
wait
the seawater.
for the other guys to get in.
All right.
I think video's
Settled in.
clear.
Looks like a snow globe. So John Reed is commenting on the mesh
So they want to grab
bryozoan
this
that we've
coral,
been
is that
seeing.
the idea?
No, probably just
We're just
wait.
hanging out. Andy just sat down to transition. But
Okay, so John Reed sent a picture of that to Judy Winston at the Smithsonian, who's a bryologist special, and she said it was retiporid, but she couldn't tell the species without actually looking at the sample. So the sample will be going her way to the Smithsonian.
so watch lead. During the handoff, I was told you wanted a scoop. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah, it's up to you on whether you want to take the time to do that. It just will probably take longer than it would if I was on the port side, if I had a port box open. But it's something we can attempt if you want to use the time to do that. That's an anemone. Okay. All right. No problem. Come wide, video. Can you turn off my fog lights?
fog lights on.
Yeah.
The fog lights on the ROV act just like your car's fog lights. It's great. Reminds me of driving home in the middle of the night in upstate New York during a snowstorm.
Saw sediment in the water?
Yeah, it's really
Sure
bad.
is.
You can see it in Sirius's view. Right
Oh,
now it's
wow.
actually pretty light comparatively,
My goodness.
except for what's just puffed in your area.
Wow.
I think that's an increase in the water current there.
That's crazy.
Like a little pulse.
Gust. Wow.
Sandstorm.
It's going to pull above this.
Deep sea weather we have here.
So it still has like 200 meters to make to the top of this
That's
guy.
interesting.
to waypoint 2. I'll find
Is
out
our,
if that's their goal or their goals are just explore
wonder if
this
something
ridge.
large stirred it up.
Our goal is not necessarily to make it to that, but to do more exploration as we go. So I think we're making some pretty good progress.
Okay, copy that.
Crab.
The crab on the right.
That's a lot of...
Yeah. So I'm just going to keep my head into the current here, Levi.
And your fog lights are off right now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, look at
See
Sirius.
rock on your right corner.
That's your starboard side.
Hmm.
Got sonar returns over there.
Sandstorm.
I was going to say, this is what we call sediment transport.
We're seeing it happen. Looks like a little Ophelia just off the screen down the bottom.
We have about an hour and 20 minutes or so on the bottom as of right now.
Copy that.
Our moves have been towards the 270 direction, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ready
if you
to drive
switch to camera 2, you'll see the cloud that we are sitting
Hey,
on
we
now.
just changed
We're
ships
sitting
down here,
within.
so I just want to check in with you and see what you currently have for a bailout plan.
I wonder if this is just because we're nearing the top of the ridge, and this is just the Gulf Stream's effect of whisking currents across that
Great.
very
Yeah,
flat
we'll just keep the same
surface at the top. And it's cascading
would you
over
agree
the
that
edges.
it's around 2.1 knots, or do you think it's a little bit higher based on the readings up there? Copy.
Want me to keep the skids in this angle or push past it here?
I would keep them for right now. I'm using them to sort of... Let's do a quick zoom here, see if we can see anything.
We collected one of those.
Yeah. Alright, come on out. See if we can get a little bit above this. Keep moving up slope.
I've never seen this much sediment in the water like this.
I haven't seen sediment. I mean, we dove in Caldera once, and you couldn't barely see the skids.
That's a volcano.
Yeah.
Because it was all
Like
stuck in
this.
And it was, I mean, it was not that different from this.
But anywhere we've seen, that I've seen at least, where
Let's
we
do
had
a
this much
quick
current,
zoom
here.
scoured.
Yeah, we might want to get our cup coral now. There's some good spots there.
Again, that's a zoanthid growing over the base of an octocoral that made that skeleton structure.
Alright, come wide, roll.
This does look like a good place to scoop a
Except
cup
for
coral.
the current, but
Yeah.
we'll get something. We'll get the coarse grain material. We might have done better to have done it earlier, but how were we to know?
Yeah.
You can barely see D2 here.
Cup coral directly below two of them.
There's a lot of them here, really. There's like...
Can we turn some of my lights off or not?
No, you can leave them on.
Okay. So it'll reduce my backscatter a little bit. If it gets really bad, we could do that.
Yeah, you could try turning one of them off and see.
Someone already did.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong current coming at us.
Alright, let's fire up hydraulics here.
Hydraulics are up. Port box is full. So we gotta go
You bring the starboard wing in a little bit.
starboard wing coming in.
That's good.
You want me to use over here.
Yeah, you can put mini juice up.
So we're setting up to take a sediment scoop, cup coral,
Yeah, you can
and
bring
maybe
the,
nodule collection. Trying to get a whole bunch of things at once. Try to maximize our space that we have to collect samples. But as we're doing this, Mike Vecchione from the Smithsonian, who's our octopod specialist, cephalopod, he was able to look at that video that we saw of the octopus just a little while ago, and he said it's Grenelodon vericosa. And he said that that's actually, we've seen a lot of them on the Okeanos in the past when we've been on this east coast. Somebody joining us?
Yes, it's me, Scott Harris.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was having some video feed problems, so I couldn't hear y'all. It was about every fifth word, so I thought I would call in to listen.
Oh, good.
Extend.
This is a pretty exciting dive today.
Lots of variety, certainly, and certainly on the geologic side. It's been very exciting.
Yes.
As I'm sure you would agree.
Oh, yes. And I appreciate all the comments by everybody. I'm learning a lot more about the manganese nodules. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It sure is.
So much to learn. So little time.
All right, bring it out.
Extending drawer.
All right, close jar.
And that was a threefer. We got cup coral, sediment, and some small manganese nodules in that sample, so that's wonderful.
Master level.
That was excellent, Pilot. Thank you. You made me very happy.
My head is all backwards and upside down now after doing that. You have to, like, it's tough because you got to come in with the arm backwards, so all your motions are reversed.
Oh my goodness.
So
I would never be able to do that.
makes it a little tough.
Before we leave this area, could we zoom on those two corals on the upper right side?
Absolutely.
Great, thanks.
And that was biosample number 5 for all of you annotating. With some wonderful associates of sediment and rock.
Stephanie will be happy about that.
Yes. Well, she doesn't have to log sediments and rock. That's my area.
Oh, doesn't she like the, what are the little guys that?
The pteropods. Oh, yes. She will absolutely love that. I thought you meant logging associates. She has plenty of work to do already today, doesn't she?
All right, Andy. You want to get a move?
Yes, Stephanie likes her
that
pteropods.
waypoint?
And I like my foraminifera.
Yeah, I got it. I just got to put it in. It's already dropped.
And we always say my, but of course these samples are available to anyone
come on in, video.
to request through the repositories. All the samples go, the rocks go to Oregon State, and the biological samples go to the Smithsonian. So if any of you listening are interested in receiving or requesting samples, go go
Check-
to the
check.
website
That's
and
much
you'll
better.
see
Oh.
information on
You want to
that.
ask if they want a Niskin release? Looks like we haven't done any yet.
You can ask. Just come.
Hello, who do we have online?
Come out a little bit here.
Hey, Leslie, it's Scott
Get
France.
the
I-
black
I
Oh,
coral.
hi.
dropped off for a few minutes and calling back.
Go ahead in.
Got hermit crabs on the. Looks like part of that is live octocoral, and then the bigger yellow polyps are actually zoanthids. Then we have an amphipod on the octocoral, and then a hermit crab on the right.
Hermit crab's holding on for dear life.
Yeah, those hermit crabs really get into some
Sorry.
crazy
Copa, you said you wanted to
predicaments.
Yeah, you can
Must be worth it.
We'll
Yeah.
rest.
Okay, we've been moving at 270. You still like that?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a little
30 meters.
20.
little
yeah.
snail,
20?
gastropod above
Okay.
on the opposite side.
Wow, good
of
eye. That's
the
tiny.
stalk.
We have
don't any,
hydroids on the left.
Water samples yet.
Ready to drive you now. Hey, we're ready to get a ship move in there. 20
Hop on
meters
the
at
front canvas
270
for that
degrees, 0.2 knots. Good copy.
I didn't copy you, Roland.
You want to turn on the front lights for the red coral?
You're gonna get a lot of backscatter, but you can go ahead and
Yeah,
try it.
it'll light this up nicely though.
Yeah, Scott France was pointing out that this is a much thicker individual of black coral than what we've seen previously on this dive, and I totally agree. It almost looks like some of them aren't planar either, some of the
Can I
branches.
try the still camera, Josh?
Sure.
It's probably overfed in this current, so it just has to keep growing.
That's pretty good.
Copy, thank you.
Let's come on out, Roland.
And
See if
Les
we can
Watling
get a,
is
full
commenting
shot
that
of
the
this area.
coral behind it, the original coral that grew there, was Acanthogorgia, and that all of the yellow guys are zoanthids.
Okay, video's clear.
And Pilot, I think we need to make some headway up this next slope that is in front of us, I believe, or should be.
I'm gonna turn those lights off.
Good copy. So
Alright.
we just put a ship move in,
Okay,
so we can keep the ship moving,
okay.
and then we'll be able to cover quite a bit of ground that
Yeah,
way.
and
You guys want me to add to the end of that move?
we have about an
Yeah,
hour
20
and
in.
15 minutes left.
Well, as we get to the end, you can tack on some more.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the terrain has been like around here.
I think it was like a 50-meter cliff just when I was here, and then it probably leveled off. Very turbid waters here.
We're now at 883 meters. Is that an urchin?
I
I
think
got
it's
hydraulics
an anemone.
secured, Josh.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
thank you.
Oh, right, yep.
Just gonna take a look with my sonar here.
Copy.
Yeah, you can tack on more to that move, Andy, if you want.
What would you like?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. Another 20 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, 20's fine. An additional 20. Yeah.
Ready to drive you nav? Hey, we'd like to add another move right at the end of this one. It's going to be the same one, 20 meters at 270, 0.2 knots. Thanks.
Let's get the anemone.
It's a nice look at that thick slab of manganese, or what we are thinking is manganese.
I bet you most people were looking at the anemone, but
No. Can't imagine that. It's a beautiful contrast.
Yeah.
The black and the orange.
A couple squat lobsters, one on each rock, I see.
Copy that. Thank you.
We have
the
just about
fish
an
over
hour
here.
left on the seafloor.
Go ahead and let's get this smaller fish here.
He's trying.
It's caught in a couple eddies.
Coral at the base of that rock looks different.
The dead one?
Yeah,
You go ahead.
unless it's a sponge.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Looks like a dead octocoral, maybe? Or what if it's one of the bryozoans?
Yeah, it almost looks like one of the bryozoans that we've been seeing. Couldn't make it in this current with all that sediment.
Looks like we have a bigger octocoral coming up in the distance. And another crab on the left, maybe a lithodid crab.
We've had requests for very good crab videos from the editing team.
Okay,
It might be tough in this.
if we could just have the sandstorm agree with us here.
Yeah, go ahead, Roland.
Yep, it looks like another lithodid crab.
Fortunately, we got a really great video of it earlier.
Yeah.
When the water
Yeah,
was
I guess
clear.
this one's not a great one.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think any of our footage at this point is
No, I
going to
don't
be
think
highlight
so.
material,
I don't think
Roland.
so. It's for documentation.
And I wonder if this is Lophelia.
Right, let's come on in.
Nope, Madrepora. Look at that, the first one of the day.
I think we might have seen that with the Lophelia, the one while you
Copy
were at
that,
lunch.
thank you.
Oh, okay.
There was just one little patch of them, but that seems so long ago now.
Yeah. we traveled far. Oh, there's a squat lobster in there.
Lots of barnacles.
Looks like maybe a Europtychus if it's blending in well with that color of the orange Madrepora. Gooseneck barnacles and a hermit crab or two.
You see a nice
Looks
gastropod
like it
shell.
just cleared for a second.
And the hermit crab, of course,
Up
most
here.
of the shells they
Not
use are
down here.
gastropods, but that particular one looks different from some of the ones we've seen. a Venus flytrap anemone, and a regular anemone, unless maybe, is that a Venus flytrap, or is that just one that's folded over in the current?
It looks like a Venus on the left,
On
but
the left.
not on the right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Not right. Now we're seeing a little more massive manganese instead of the individual nodules. We saw this a little bit when we first started seeing them at the top of the scarp, or a little rise in this whole larger scarp face.
Poor fish is getting blown away so quick.
Could I call another 30 meters, Andy?
Okay.
Ooh, is this another one of
Yeah.
the sponges, the
Looks
carnivorous sponges? Pilot, would you possibly be able to collect that sponge, the tall, skinny one, right in center?
In the center? Sure.
That would be great.
Good, yeah.
All
We
you got
zoom in
left
here.
is
talked about it, and then we didn't
Starboard
see any
outer.
more.
We haven't seen any in a while, but we saw a lot of these at the beginning of the dive, probably until about at
get
least the
lasers
halfway
on.
mark. So I think this would be a good representative of the site, and one that we haven't collected so far this expedition.
If we can get close up on it with the nice lights, be beneficial. Video's clear.
All right, come on out.
Hydraulics are up.
Thank
starboard
you.
outer.
Right.
Yeah, starboard outer is the only box left.
Gonna go broadside.
Looks like I have to set up facing into the current. I don't want to damage any of these other corals.
Great, thank you, pilot.
We can kill lasers.
All right.
That's not going to hold.
Were you trying auto XY?
No, I was
Oh.
trying auto heading, but at the back of the vehicle was touching before the front, so it was just spinning me around. Let's see if this will work.
And this is biological specimen 6.
Again, it's smaller than once you get the manipulator in there, you realize it's a little bit smaller than I was thinking.
So I'm just going to try to take about half of this,
Okay.
if that's okay with you, or do you want the whole thing?
I think half of it would be okay. Great.
Box is clear.
Come out.
Stand by. Alright, all clear. Alright.
Great. So we have many samples now. We have 2 rocks. We have 4 biological samples, and even within one of those biological sample
your
boxes,
camera
we
back
have
now.
some more rocks and sediment. So we've
stand by
covered
one.
all the bases today. We have
Where's
filled
that?
up our capability, maxed out. So we're gonna keep going. We have just a little,
Yeah, we could call
just
it
about
a
an
night.
hour
You have
left
your
in the
waypoint?
dive.
Yep.
I do.
We're still climbing to the top of this feature. That is, now we realize, over 100 meters in relief. And
Bridge, RV
we're
nav.
at the edge of the Blake
Hey,
Plateau,
we'd like to put another ship move in.
where
30
at the top of
meters
this
at
feature, we
270,
expect to see,
0.2
if we get
knots.
there, we expect to find very, very flat-lying rocks that make up
copy.
the broad part of the plateau itself. And we are at the edge of the plateau at the top of what we call the Blake Escarpment. It will begin to stair-step down to a depth of maybe 3,000 meters and meets the Blake Ridge.
Do a snap zoom here.
And we visited both the Blake Escarpment and Blake Ridge on the first 3 dives, actually the first 4 dives of this mission. 2 stops at
Copy
different
that, thank you.
portions of the Blake Escarpment at water depths of 1,700 meters and another at a water depth of 1,300 meters.
Alright, come on out.
And saw some very large diversity of organisms, and those dives are really quite different from this one. And then we also were farther out on the Blake Ridge at water depths exceeding 3,000 meters. And one of those dives was giant bed forms, very large, undulating waves of mud, basically. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
And
You could blow it.
no rocks, but we did still find organisms that have found a way to survive in that deep, rockless habitat, but certainly not abundant corals and sponges like we find living on these hard substrates elsewhere in the region. A little more sediment cover here. You can see where burrowing organisms have made little mounds
Oh,
of
that's
the
what it
debris that, or the underlying sediment
Try to give you some more.
that is sitting on top. You often see that on beaches with those ghost crabs or other organisms that burrow into the sands. See that in the deep sea as well, of course.
Let's get the fish real quick.
You gotta find habitats where you can.
Scott France was pointing out that they collected one of those carnivorous sponges in the Gulf of Mexico on the Okeanos EX1711 cruise, and it was chondrocladia. He thought that it might have had zoanthids on it, but then looked back and it did not have zoanthids, but had 2 polynoid polychaete associates and an ophiuroid brittle star. And that was from 734 meters, so we are almost 100 meters deeper. We're 877 meters right now. I wonder if that's more of those zoanthids on
Let's come out
this
in video.
yellow octocoral looking thing.
No.
Or maybe it's the actual Acanthogorgia or whatever original octocoral it
Rock's
was.
disabled.
Copy.
Want lasers back on or leave them off?
Yeah, you can put them on.
Definitely has a crinoid at the top.
Getting a little closer for you, Roland.
It looks like another blade of seagrass on the rock to the right, and then behind it also. We've seen a few of those.
Hey. Yep.
Not stable enough.
Ooh, that's a pretty view.
Am I tugging you? Maybe.
What was that, Roland?
I said it wasn't stable enough.
Yeah, you can come in now. I can't do anything about it moving around.
So this
I can
might
myself
be Paramaricia, not Acanthogorgia.
Is that in the background? That tube?
That might be a tube anemone in the background, a Ceryanthid tube anemone. We haven't seen those today either.
No.
Do we want to challenge Josh to pick that up with a scoop?
I don't think we have any boxes
We don't
left.
have any boxes left,
There's
otherwise I
another one.
would.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, because that is a multi-species rock as well. Coral
clear.
rock.
Okay, let's come out.
Another cutthroat eel. We're at 875 meters now, and it looks like a lot more rock up here.
We should be nearing the top of our feature here. Be interesting to see if the top of the feature is coated with this manganese rock.
You guys ready? Want another move in there?
Yep. You can
Yeah.
just keep them going.
Okay. Bridge, RV Nav. Hey, are we at the end of that move?
The multi-beam
Great.
sonar
Can we
data
go ahead and get
that
the same
mapped
move
this
in?
area,
30 meters, 270,
first of
0.2
all, we
knots.
did one pass over it early in this cruise, and then did some more mapping last night because we wanted to look at this area, and we'll have to examine the backscatter to see what kind of reflectivity the sound has on this surface here. Be interesting. It's rough, so it would tend to scatter, but it's also very hard with
Copy that.
this
Thank you.
material.
I was wondering if that was a Liopathes black coral on the far left.
Something you want to look at? In the,
Sure, if you could. We haven't seen any of those, I don't think, this dive.
where was it?
It's the one that's in the distance center.
Oh, the white one in the, the one closer where the lasers are?
The one further in the
Oh,
distance,
the
a little more. If we
back.
can't reach it, that's okay.
See if we can get there. Yeah, go ahead in. This one? Or,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead in,
That's
Ro.
another Madrepora, I
Yeah.
think. Okay. So we again see more of these Madrepora towards the top of this feature,
Yeah.
just like we have for the past 3 days, 3 dives. And this one also has a Europtychus type of chirostylid. If you look really closely, blends in so well, it's hard to see. Yeah, it does look like there's something else on the kind of center backside, some other and purple polyps. Be an octocoral growing on it. Oh, and there's another chirostylid squat lobster.
Okay, let's come out.
Still heading up. Maybe another Madrepora.
Go ahead and roll.
Kula mana mana. That's a great
Good job. I was afraid to even go to touch that
well,
one.
Scott France wrote it out phonetically.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh, yeah, that looks a lot better.
Sounds like a Hawaiian name.
Okay, it's coming up. Let's get the fish real quick. Nope.
Nope.
Not cooperating.
We've seen very few of the urchins, too, like
Yeah.
we saw under the Gulf Stream. The pancake urchins and other, and even pencil urchins we haven't seen. I don't know if we've seen any today.
Well, if we're talking about things we haven't seen, it's pretty rare to have a dive where we don't see bamboo corals. We've
Yeah.
seen so many of those over the last several
Interesting,
dives.
yeah.
Bridge RV Nap.
I don't believe there's been a single one today.
Yeah, I don't remember
I think
seeing
you're
one
coming
either.
to an end of that move, correct?
We're sorry, Scott.
Okay, let's go ahead and add another 30 meters.
I'm sniffling here in my office.
I know. Well, I was kind of pouting when we hadn't seen a rock in a while, so. But at least I always see sediment, so I'm happy.
Another glass sponge.
We actually just passed over, it was lower right, we don't have to go back, but a pinkish coral that may have been something different. Oh, we're going back. This may be a
Oh, yeah. And then we might have some Lophelia there in the middle too. And
Go
then
ahead
2 Madrepora colonies. Is that a Bathypathes is laying down?
Yep. Pappy.
Come out just a little bit. Let's get the white one right
But
here.
yeah, that looks
Go
like
ahead.
Lophelia. So we've only seen a little bit of it today, and this one looks like there's a few.
Copy that. Thank you. How's that? Is that any better? Okay.
All right. Let's come on out. It's a cool shot of all the lights on D2.
Yeah. So you see the light pool from each one, each bank.
Yeah.
Starfish below lasers.
We gotta get the
Oh
starfish.
yeah.
The cooking star, possible.
Wonder if this is the Goniasterid that we saw earlier.
Go ahead and roll. All right, hold that. All right.
I just tallied that we've had 35 visitors contributing to our chat room today. And we want to thank you all for joining in and giving us lots
Right,
of
go ahead and type.
information, sharing your knowledge, giving us your ideas. Thank you for those of you who have phoned in and helped narrate this really interesting dive. Of course, they're all interesting. They're all brand new. New views of the seafloor. You see lots of pteropod shells littered around. That's what all those angular whitish fragments are. Pteropods are planktonic organisms. They live in the seawater when they are thriving, and they have a long foot-like body that helps to move them around, and that's where the term pteropod comes out. Wing foot. They look like 2 large wings, and they are gastropods. They're a type of mollusk. Planktonic snails, you can kind of think of them that way. Some of the actually look like snails. Those on the sea floor that you just noticed really don't remind too many people of snails.
And the scientists in the chat room have been talking about the zoanthid species that we might be seeing on the skeletons of former octocorals, and there's a consensus that we really need to collect them in order to be able to tell the species, that it would be just about impossible to do from video. But there are some zoanthids that might be specific for living on certain species. And then Andrew Quattrini, oh boy, this is a fun name, Buligomi zoanthus, Emily, might be the zoanthid that lives on Paragorgia, the bubblegum coral like we saw before. That's a mouthful. I think the chat room just challenges us more and more as the day goes on.
Just making up words to see how we pronounce them. Or how you, I don't even try, so. Seeing lots of that manganese material.
Ooh, is this a different sea star?
It certainly is.
Looks like it. Just when we said we weren't seeing too many sea stars.
Right, come on in.
This one's hanging out on one of the manganese rocks.
like another goniasterid. Might just be the angle we're seeing him.
Wonder if that's the orange one that Chris Ma was more interested in yesterday. Wow.
Very pretty.
Should try this with the extra lights. I think it'll make it pop more.
Take
Come
about
back in tight.
10 centimeters across, maybe?
Can we turn on the extra lights?
Sure, go ahead, co-pilot.
Lasers are clear.
We got some fantastic imagery yesterday of a similar but not the same species of sea star wrapped around the plumarella. Is that what it was eating? Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
A plumarella.
There's one species that was always on plumarella.
Yeah, we saw it in 3 different settings, feeding on the plumarella. And we got some really great footage. I think one of the still shots or the frame grabs from that video will be posted on the web shortly, if not
The
today.
dark orange
I don't know how
thing
long
at the
it
bottom?
takes to get from the ship to the website.
It's a different color sponge. Bright red.
Okay, video's clear.
That's a new sponge for the day.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a sponge that color in the deep either.
Pumpkin colored.
There, come on up.
Hey, this is Chris Ma.
Hey Chris, how are you?
Good.
And we're still
I
at
see
the
that you're
sea
having
star.
a nice run of cookie stars today.
Yeah, so is this that one that we saw yesterday that you were more interested in?
Oh, I think this is a larger variant of the one that you've been seeing all day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, the close-up helped a lot, and I'm really appreciative of that because the detail from the video was exceptional. So thanks, Roland. But yeah, this is another kind of large cookie star called Peltaster placenta, and without getting too much into the minutia, one of the ways I can tell that is because of the presence of different types of plates on the surface and the fact that they're covered by granules. This is the lower end of this species, and so it's interesting to me how something, how something that is, I guess for lack of a better word, so invested gets so big down here, because these are, these are calcium carbonate, and the skeletons of these animals are calcium carbonate. They're quite large, and they don't feed on coral, so as far as I know. Maybe they're feeding on something else, but that's a pretty big animal, and some of the ones that we've seen in the collections get quite large as well. And this is nearly 1,000 meters, so it's an interesting animal, and like I said, it occurs widely. But it's always I wonder what they do down here. Whether or not they're just some kind of,
You ready for another one? Your swink's not out yet.
just sort of a random predator, or feeding on
not a whole lot.
some of or they're scavengers or something else. So, it's one of those mysterious things that we know they're there, but we'd like to know more what they're doing.
What
Hey,
they're
can we get
doing,
another ship
yeah.
over?
Yeah, precisely. So anyway, excellent video as always.
Yep, that sounds great.
I'm grateful for stopping, and and hopefully more will
Video
turn up
swapping
in the
out.
remaining
Copy.
part of the dive. I realize
Do you want to flash
that's
them, Andy?
narrowing. So
We only have like 30
Yeah, we
minutes.
only have about a half hour
Oh,
left,
we
but
only have a
hopefully
half
we'll
hour?
see some more sea stars,
Thought
and
we had an hour.
we'll be able to talk to you again, Chris.
Let's get this
absolutely.
guy
Thank
floating.
you. I'll
Thank
talk to
you.
guys later.
Swimming
Is
by.
our off bottom time?
Oh, that's ink.
Oh, was that a squid
about 30
somewhere
minutes.
then?
Yeah.
We need to start setting up.
If I could count the number of times I've been fooled by squid ink.
By
Copy that.
squid ink. So
Very
we
effective.
have finally reached the top of this ridge, it looks like, from our high pack, and sort of verified by very flat here. I don't see anything on the horizon in our sonar.
at 872 meters.
Yeah. So we were hoping to see some
That is going to be the highest point
populations
all around.
of corals.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little different.
10 more meters.
Let's do a snap here.
Oh, there's a coral.
Representative of the area.
Yep, and luckily we have a sample of that. Pretty sure it's the same plumarella type that we've been seeing quite often today.
Okay, it's coming up.
It's really been one of the
I
dominant.
think there's probably many, many more here that we haven't been noticing just because they blend in so well.
They sure do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You really have to look closely for a little fuzziness on the horizon, and
Let's do a snap right here. Chrysogorgia.
oh, a chrysogorgid. We haven't seen one of those in a while. And this one looks like it has the chirostylid associate
too.
instead of the shrimp.
Right, it's coming up.
How's that wire angle look, co-pilot?
It's out there.
Yeah.
All these
Showing
sort of
230
horizontal
meters from
flat
way
white
back right
discs,
now.
are these sponges or the bryozoan?
I was thinking they were sponges, but maybe we should take a closer look when we see another one. We have another hexactinellid glass vase sponge over here on the right.
Chuck Messing was asking a question earlier about the flattened morphology of the sponge and wondered if it might reflect current that is near the bottom. And when he said it, we weren't looking at the sponge, and I wasn't sure if he was talking about a sponge that was on a rock that had just tipped over, but now I am seeing all these ones that appear to be horizontal to the bottom, which is very interesting.
Yeah, we saw one that we were pointing out earlier that looked like a visor on a rock.
Let's
And
do a quick zoom of this guy.
yeah, I
It's
remember
covered
that
with
one.
some associates, it looks like.
Come on in, video.
Be advised, Josh.
looks like barnacles and a
Got you
hermit
at
crab.
75-ish.
Good copy. Hey, come in tight.
And we're about halfway through the 30-meter move, I would guess. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Andy?
No, I was seeing
Pretty
some
close.
cup
Close
corals
enough.
in the background, too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of little guys on there.
Yeah. And more hydroids. Whenever there's something left behind sticking up in the water column, organisms will use it.
Okay. If you're happy, we can move on. Watch
That's
Lee.
good. Mm-hmm.
Looks great.
Thanks.
It looks like another one of the carnivorous sponges in the background there. Chondrocladia. Oh, maybe we could zoom on this sponge-like thing and see whether we can figure
Come on
this
in,
out.
video.
I like the name visor sponge. That's very evocative.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that bryozoan.
Yeah, that's the bryozoan.
little canopy for the squat lobster
Come
habitat.
in tight.
For us to know. So I think that's probably what we're seeing. It makes more sense.
Yeah, it does. Wow.
That's beautiful. The scale worm on it.
How's that guy holding on?
That was an amphipod.
Or an isopod.
Maybe an isopod.
Isopod. Yeah.
It's a few of them.
We're
One-
still hoping to see
one
that
to the
giant
lower left.
isopod that
Right.
roams the area.
This would have been a good area for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Looks like another isopod on the lower left, and then, of course, the squat lobster underneath, and pteropod shell on the seafloor, lower left.
Yep.
Come on out.